For context, I was 22 years old at the time, a female and a senior in college. During my senior year in college, I was following a particular politician and was going to rallies and other events in my spare time. Me and my friends were having a ball and loved being involved. One particular rally that I went to was in the city. My friends and I took a train in and enjoyed ourselves. On the way home back to our university, I noticed a guy sitting across from us that I had recognized from campus. He was pretty cute and I remember seeing him around as we must have had some mutual friends. I said hi to him and to my delight, he also recognized me. We spoke for a few minutes and discovered that we were both at the same rally. By the end of the train ride, he asked me for my phone number. I remember thinking, wow, a cute guy and we have something in common. I gave him my number but didn't think much past that. About a week later though, I received a text from him. He asks me if I'm free this weekend and if I would be interested in meeting up and having a drink. This particular time was during a break from school, so not many people were around. For whatever reason, I had chosen not to go home. And in my naive mind at the time, I thought, great, I have my place all to myself. I meet him at our local bar and we have a few drinks. It was pretty quiet for a Friday, as it was break time, and after an hour or two, we decided to leave. I invited him back to my place for a bottle of wine and to hang out some more. He wound up staying the night and leaving in the morning. But when I woke up, for whatever reason, I had an uneasy feeling. Nothing bad had happened per se, but I just didn't like how things had went. I felt like he was so serious, not laughing or smiling the entire evening. Although he always had a drink in his hand, I realized that he wasn't really drinking them. The entire evening he was kind of shifty and nervous. The only way I can describe it is like he was on a mission and waiting for something. These were all red flags to me. I felt bad, but I just was not interested in this guy. To my relief, he didn't text me for a while after that, and I assumed that he came to the same realization that it just wasn't a good match. This is until about 2 or 3 weeks later. He writes me a message telling me that he's been busy but really wants to meet this weekend and catch up. This particular weekend, my older sister was having a large party for her friend's husband's birthday at their house a few towns away. A few of my friends and I were going there, and there was always a very large group of people at their parties, about 50 to 60. Now, let me be clear. These parties were not your typical get wasted and stay up until the cops get called type college parties. They were more of an adult type party, given my sister's husband is fairly older than us. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty of drinking going on, and they were very fun, just more of an adult type barbecue with day drinking. Me and my 2 girlfriends were going to spend the night, as I was going to drive there, but obviously we would be drinking. The party started early at 12 PM. Against my better judgment, I invited him to the party thinking that it couldn't hurt. I gave him the address and time. He seemed very interested and agreed to come. The day of the party was a lot of fun and my friends and I were having a blast. I must admit, I did have a sinking feeling and was not looking forward to seeing this guy. Then to my absolute and utter relief, I get a text from him saying that he will be unable to make it. I finally could relax and enjoy the party. By about 12 AM, everyone is exhausted from a day of full-on drinking and the party is winding down. Most of all of the guests have gone home except my friends and I and a few other guys, friends of my sister's husband who were also sleeping there. And of course, my sister and her husband. My sister has one guest room which was taken and a fully carpeted and finished basement. We had various blankets and pillows and were all going to sleep down there on the couches or pretty much anywhere you could lay. As I'm about to go down to the basement and get ready for sleep, the man walks through the front door. No knocking, no text, no anything. Just confidently walks straight into the house. I don't know why, but my initial reaction was fear. I pretended to be happy to see him and gave him a small hug. I asked him why he was there, to which he never gave a real response. All of the lights were out and everyone was gone. I was gesturing around and hinting at him that the party was over and that he missed it. I felt bad that he made the effort and decided to speak with him for a few minutes before I went to bed. We talked. I told him that I was going to get ready for bed and that I'm sorry that he missed the party. He tells me,
"Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it."
This dude is just not getting the hint to leave. I leave the room and go to change my clothes and set myself up for bed, brush my teeth, etc. I'm just hoping that he will leave, but I don't hear any movement from the other room. When I come back to the living room to check and see if he's actually still there, he is, and he's asleep on the couch. I obviously found this strange, but just assumed it was late and that he must have been really tired. He didn't seem out of place as there were various other people sleeping at the house as well. I went to the basement and found myself a place to sleep on the floor. About 30 minutes to an hour later, I'm lying on the floor, still awake, thinking about how weird it is that he showed up. And it's pitch black, and there are a few other people sleeping there, including my friends. I hear someone in the dark slowly coming down the stairs. I see that they are holding a cell phone light to guide them. As the figure reached the bottom of the steps, I see that it's him. Now, he's never been to this house. It's a nice suburban area, not a frat house. And I did immediately think that it was weird that he would randomly be walking around a house of a person that he doesn't know. I pretended to be asleep. As I lay there, frozen, I suddenly feel a tap on my shoulder. He doesn't say a word. He's over me and trying to wake me up. I don't move and pretend to be asleep. I lay there in the dark, in silence, and I'm listening for his footsteps to walk away. I can tell that he's holding a light over me. Then, with no warning, this man takes a step back and with his boot on, kicks me full force in the face. I'm not talking about a little tap with his foot to wake me up. No, full force boot, kicks me directly in the face. My face goes numb. I don't know what just happened. I can feel blood running down my nose. I open my eyes and look at him, and all I can remember saying is something along the lines of, "Why did he do that?" He just stared at me blankly and said nothing, turned around and walked back up the steps. I lay there paralyzed in fear. My heart is beating a million times a minute. I don't know how long it was until I garnished the courage to get up, that eventually I army crawled in the dark over to my friend. Another man near her wakes up as well, and I explain to them what happened. We're all half drunk, dazed, and confused to say the least. I can't stay in the basement. I know he left, but I was so scared. My friend and the other guy offered to take me upstairs so I can sleep in my sister's room. I go into my sister's room and lay next to her bed on the floor. I shut the door behind me, but unfortunately there was no lock. I don't know how, but eventually I fall asleep. At some point, it's now morning, I wake up to my sister leaning over me. She asks, "What happened to your face? And why are you in my room?" Right as I'm about to answer her, my friend, who'd helped me the night before, comes flying into the room. She tells us that the guy is still there and asleep on the couch. She runs out and I can hear her screaming at him to get up and get out. I hear him arguing back and asking where I am. My friend tells him that I've left, and he begins arguing that he knows that my car is still there. I have no idea how he knew which car was mine, as he'd never seen it before, and that I hadn't taken my purse. Eventually he leaves. After that night, he wrote me a message a few days later as if nothing had happened, asking me to hang out again. I blocked him and have never heard from him again after that. I graduated only 2 months later and thankfully never saw him on campus again. To this day, I have no idea why he kicked me in the face and how he had the balls to stay over that night. I've learnt my lesson about giving out my number to strangers. I hope I never see him again. I've had the misfortune of coming across a few scary guys in my life. My friends will say that I'm a weirdo magnet, so I'm pretty wary and clued up now. I'm a bit older, but when I was a teenager, I suppose you could say that I was very naive. Back when I was 20, me and my family, my mum and little sister, had moved from a small rural village in the Shires to a town down south. And it was a huge change, and as I had been having a difficult time, I welcomed the change of scenery. It was a beautiful town in an affluent part of the country, but I struggled to find a job and became very frustrated as my mum needed a bit of help with money. Over the course of about 3 months, we became fairly friendly with a middle-aged guy who owned a takeaway shop in town. I'll call him Phil. If ever he saw us doing something, he would come and chat and ask how the family were, and he genuinely seemed like a decent, caring bloke. So, when he said that he might have a job for me in his shop with a small flat upstairs that I could rent for next to nothing, I thought, okay, great, maybe things are looking up. Phil got our address and told me and my mum that he would pop by early evening time when he had finished and take me in the car to go and see the flat. I get myself looking fairly casual but presentable, and I'm feeling excited and confident, thinking, wow, a job and a flat? I've killed 2 birds with 1 stone here, and I just needed to show him that I was sophisticated and would make a great employee. Around 8 PM, he knocks on the front door and Mum answers. He tells her that he will probably only take about half an hour, and he will have me back safe and sound in no time. Now, I didn't take my phone with me as I had no credit to call out and didn't think that I would be needing it for a quick trip down the road and back. In hindsight, a pretty stupid thing to do. Maybe if I had had my phone on me, that would have deterred him from what he was about to do. It's already dark out as it's March. I get into his car and we start driving, and he's chatting away, asking how I am and telling me what the flat is like. When, within a matter of few minutes, I've noticed that we're not taking the conventional route that takes us directly into town. At first I think he's taking me down some sort of a shortcut around town to get to it, and just reason with myself that he knows the area well, and I don't. 30 seconds afterwards, I realize that he's taking me in the completely opposite direction, and I can tell that we are driving away from the populated town and into an area where trees swamp both sides of the road. My brain is now working overtime, thinking where the fuck is this guy taking me? And I just about managed to keep my composure and ask him outright. Where are we going? Town's back the other way.
Just thought I'd take you on a little tour. It's beautiful out here, many forests and peaceful places I would love to show you around.
He tells me in his normal cheery tone. I wasn't capable of saying anything at that moment because the logical and the reasoning sides of my brain were in a full-blown war. I'm trying to keep calm thinking, okay, he seems fairly normal. Why wouldn't he want to show me around? It's a stunning area full of natural beauty. He's probably proud to show me where he lives. The logical side, however, disagreed, and a wave of panic comes over me, and a little voice enters my head and shouts, "What in the hell? No, are you stupid?" So, I just sit there in silence, taking in the scenery, which is becoming more sinister by the second, because at that moment in time I didn't know what to think. All I know is every cell in my body is screaming at me to find a way out of this situation. I started looking for signposts, houses, any distinctive landmarks, ditches, huge trees, anything that I would be able to use to recognize my way back if I had to bolt from his car. Phil can obviously sense that I'm nervous, so he's just talking away at me about what the job is like and how his staff are friendly, and before I know it, he has slowed down to a crawl and he has turned down a little mud-wrapped road with a dense tree line on one side and pitch black open fields on the other. My stomach literally drops and my body contemplates power vomiting all over his car because the reality of what is about to potentially happen hits me like a freight train. I'm thinking to myself, if I jump out here, I have to be able to run over muddy fields into literally nowhere, but my imagination starts rather helpfully flashing by images of him grabbing me before I get a chance to get out of the car. So I just sit there, buckled in the passenger seat, not saying a word. I'm just thinking to myself, if he attacks me, don't make a sound. Don't give him the satisfaction of showing him that I'm scared. My brain was about as useful as a chocolate teapot, and I was starting to get angry with myself for not doing something, but I was terrified. We come out at the top of this little dirt road, and there is a tiny little car park surrounded by woodland with one car sat in it. It was clear that there were people in there having sex, and as he pulls near the car, I realize that he's brought me to a local dogging spot. He turns to me and puts his hand on my knee.
We should do what they're doing.
With a deadly, serious expression on his face. I make this bizarre half-nervous laugh, half-garbled, high-pitched whine, and try to laugh off the suggestion to show that I'm not into it, and I'm super uncomfortable right now. The alarmed expression on his face at my gurgled cackle, which sounds like I've swallowed a potato whole, clearly freaks him out, and I'm mentally congratulating myself for my socially awkward and grossly unsexy reaction.
It will be fun. No one will see us.
He persists. No, I don't want to. Plus, I'm kind of seeing someone right now. I lied. But he sits there just smiling at me like a Cheshire cat, like I'm going to miraculously change my mind at the sight of his weird face. Mum will be expecting me home now, I tell him after an insanely uncomfortable 30 seconds more of this, as I try my damn hardest not to take my eye contact off.
I'm sure she won't mind you being out a little bit longer with me. You can trust me, you know that, right?
He tells me with a straight face as we sit next to the sex wagon parked next to us. I sharply pull my leg away from his grip and I tell him again. Mum is waiting for me. She'll start panicking if I'm not home in the next few minutes. Take me home. I look him straight in the face and he knows that I'm not messing around.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take you back now.
Without another word, he drives me out of that creepy seedy place and back home. My finger is hovering over the seatbelt button ready to jump out. As we pull up outside our home, I breathe a sigh of relief as I can see my safety literally a few feet away. And before he can stop me, I'm out and slam the door behind me. As I'm stepping over a tiny little rope fence around my garden, he gets out of his car and my heart sinks. I think I will pop in and see your mum quickly, he tells me, and I swear I can see a smirk on his face. But I know that he's only doing this because he's freaking out, knowing damn well that I'm going to tell her. He was trying to delay the inevitable or scare me into keeping my mouth shut. Before I can try and talk him out of it, Mum has heard us pull up and open the front door. I barge past her with one thought on my mind. I head straight out into the kitchen, grab a small knife out of the drawer and fly into my little sister's room like a mad woman. Don't you dare leave this room, no matter what you hear, I whisper to her. Seeing the knife I'm stuffing up my sleeve, she just looks at me with a panic in her eyes and whispers back, okay. I walk back into the living room, and the cheeky twat is sat on one sofa, sprawled out, comfortable as fuck like he's at home. I see red. I swear to God, I felt like the Hulk. I'm ready for the bastard. I awkwardly perch myself on the arm of the sofa my mum is sitting on, the absolute furthest away from him that I can imagine, as he just sits there making small talk with my mum about how she's finding the area, and the neighbors are friendly, all the while keeping his beady little weasel eyes on my every move.
Why don't you come and sit over here next to me?
He pats the sofa cushion next to him. No, I'm alright here, thanks, I tell him as I'm fidgeting with my sleeve, trying to stop the little knife from falling out in front of him.
Why are you sat over there? Come here, honestly, I won't bite.
He laughs and pats the seat next to him again. No, I'm quite comfortable here, thank you very much. This time through gritted teeth. My mum, bless her, is looking at each of us during this back and forth like a tennis match, and I can see something is registering in her eyes. She can see my behavior is all off. I've got one bum cheek weirdly perched on the sofa arm as I'm half stood up, half sat down, and I'm fiddling about with my sleeve. I'm twitchy as hell and staring my mum in the face intensely, mentally trying to speak to her through the power of telepathy alone. I must have looked like a nutter. It's getting late now, so I think you should go. My mum finally speaks. Mum is starting to look anxious now, and she's finally figured out that something has happened. Phil gets up, agrees, and mumbles something about having to check something at his shop when he walks by me and is nearly out of the room. Then he pauses and turns to me and puts out his hand to shake mine. I'm thinking to myself, what a fucking weird thing to do. I take the opportunity to kindly offer my hand that had the knife. Taking it with a bit more force than is polite, he soon yanked his grubby mitt out of mine when the tip of the blade had jabbed him. He looked down and saw the blade, then he looked at me. I looked at him with such disgust. Phil hightailed it out of our home so fast without another word. A prick for a prick. I told my mum everything and she was fuming. We did discuss going to the police, but it wasn't really a crime committed on his part aside from being a major creep. Sadly, when I mentioned to a couple of girls my age who lived down our street, they clamped up and shot each other a strange look. I guessed that he had probably done this type of thing before. I'm so glad to report that we've moved away from that area soon after, and I never have to see his smug face ever again. I hope I never see Phil again.